Can the IRS take my paycheck because my spouse owes tax debt? That was a question I got yesterday, and a very good question. This is Carlos Samaniego coming to you live from the creek, Carlos by the creek, talking about tax problems. Wanted to talk a little bit more about spouses and tax debt, but before we jump into that, hey, notice the shirt? My daughter made it official. For those that you don't know, my daughter has been applying to all 5 service academies. But yesterday morning, she made her final decision. She has decided to go to the United States Coast Guard Academy and play volleyball. It's a volleyball shirt. So she's super excited about her decision. She didn't need to wait for any more decisions from the other service academies. She really loved the place. So I'm excited to wear her t-shirt, or a t-shirt. So let's talk about tax problems, spouses. And as I mentioned, as we started this, I said, hey, can the IRS take your paycheck if your spouse owes taxes? And the answer is yes and no. Or better yet, as we say in the tax world, it depends. Here's the situation. If you guys owe taxes, or if your spouse owed taxes, let's just say before you got married, that tax debt belongs to him or them, whoever it is. So whether it's one spouse or another, if the spouse owes taxes prior to getting married, the tax debt belongs to them. But here's where it can become tricky. So let's just say that spouse does not take care of that tax debt. So they decide not to take care of deal with it, get into some type of resolution, a payment plan, whatever it might be. And it goes to collections, and you guys actually have money going into a bank account, a joint bank account. They will 100% go after that joint bank account, even though, and you may be getting your paycheck deposited in that bank account. So they're not technically taking the money from your paycheck, but they are taking the money from the joint bank account. So there's one issue there. Another situation could be you guys file a joint tax return after you get married. So let's just say, the spouse has the tax debt prior to marriage, but they now get married, and moving forward, they start filing joint returns. Well, if they file a joint return, if there's a refund, they're going to take the entire refund. There is a way of stopping that. It's called an injured spouse form. We can talk about that later. But yes, to answer the question, yes, a spouse could potentially lose their paycheck through a bank account. But if the taxes do not belong to them specifically, they're not going to go directly after their paycheck. Another question I get, and I kind of wrote these down, will the IRS take my Social Security if my spouse owes taxes? So in other words, one spouse is getting Social Security, the other spouse owes taxes. And it's going to be very similar to the first question, can they take the paycheck? If the tax is not a joint tax debt, they're not going to take the Social Security. But if that Social Security deposit is going into a joint bank account, again, because it's a joint bank account and the other spouse hasn't dealt with the tax problem, yes, they can take the Social Security. The IRS doesn't know that that's the Social Security money sitting in the bank account. All they see is bank account, joint bank account, one spouse owes taxes, and they take the taxes. And my last question for this morning is, what if my spouse refuses to file tax returns? That is actually a very common situation that I'm starting to get, especially a lot more lately, where one spouse just refuses to file tax returns after they've gotten married. Here's the thing. First, you need to have a serious conversation with your spouse to find out why they're not doing that. There might be some underlying issues going on that you need to find out. But here's the thing. You don't have to actually... give me a second here. I'm walking up these rocks. You don't actually have to not file a return. So you can actually, and when I say you don't have to file the return with your spouse, you have the right as a spouse to file a married filing separate return. That way, you're not caught in that situation of not filing a tax return. So you have the right to file a married filing separate tax return. And that is a strategy you need to really consider if your spouse is not filing returns or refuses to file tax returns. So hopefully that actually helps you out. I got to go take a look. Bruno, I don't know if you can see my dog. He's right up there, right up there looking at something. I want to make sure he's not getting himself in trouble. So again, if you guys need help, feel free to grab my book, taxdebtbook.com. You'll find the link below in the description, or feel free to reach out to us at any time. Contact information is in the link below. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye for now.